I knew I was missing.
Thank you so much.
All right, Student Senate, if we'll go ahead and start finding our seats, please. I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, we'll move into first roll call with Nathan.
Al Abdullah, Almadani, Beasley, Belina, Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Boykin, Brentsey, Burke, Carlson, Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colasico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gilliland King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Preuss, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin, Watkins, Whitmer, and Zimmerman. We have 45 senators present. Moving into directors, Belk, Bruner, Chiefchi, Cohen, Croslow, Dunfield, Gammon, Gertzen, Heisey, Hopfinger, Hornung, Horton, Karmali, Kulkarni, Land, Lundeen, Nunez, Penny, Polson, Steiner, Wilbrandt, and then Riffle and Chummeland. Okay, and there are 9 directors present.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and move into first open period. Our first open period speaker tonight is Jason Hilgers, Deputy City Manager for the City of Manhattan.
Well, thank you for having me. The Deputy City Manager, I serve under the City Manager. I've been with the city for about 20 years now. I came to the organization in '99 as an MPA student here at K-State. This evening we're going to talk about Aggieville. There's a lot to talk about with Aggieville right now. 10 minutes, I'm going to focus on tax increment financing and how we're going to go about moving forward with about $30 million worth of redevelopment. We had an open house last night. We have a website that I'll get to on the next few slides that I think has been emailed to you all. There's a lot of information out there. Feel free to check it out. A lot of current imagery, but we've started and have been working on Aggieville for quite some time. There was a Campus Edge plan put together through the Community Development Department, adopted by both the Planning Board and the City Commission in '05. We've had Manhattan area transportation studies done in 2000 and in 2015, both highlighting deficits for parking within Aggieville. We started a community vision in 2016, and since that time, really, it's evolved to where we are today, 2019. We have a tax increment finance district in place. We have consultants on board. We're in the final design phases for a few different segments of Aggieville, and we'll highlight those here in a little bit. The first website that you can click on and explore yourself, it is a massive information center for us. It's what we share with the community since 2016. So all the surveys, there's a video on that side of the future of Aggieville. There's plans that we just recently developed and again showed last night at an open house in the pavilion in City Park. And then the YouTube video is the one that we highlight a lot. It was done in-house by city staff. It was a city engine kind of vision, and it's something that we're pretty proud of. But hop into the next slide. So we have about $30 million worth of costs that we are going to try to improve upon in Aggieville over the next 5 years. This includes everything from a parking garage to electrical upgrades, which is really burying the overhead power lines, creating a public Wi-Fi system, and then our roads, utilities, streetscapes, and amenities. It's virtually everything from building to building in Aggieville will be replaced. Sidewalks, alleys, streets. We have every segment of roadway identified and in a plan through 2025. $30 million worth of improvements. And the big question really throughout the community is how are we going to pay for that? Next slide. This is the video. You can skip it and you can watch that on your own. We were successful this year in establishing a tax increment finance district. Essentially, the city goes in and establishes an area and then attempts to capture that valuation for the next 20 years. Manhattan has an opportunity to look at that growth area in Aggieville and see if we can't use some of that growth over the period of that 20-year time frame to capture revenue and put it back in public infrastructure. We're hoping that public infrastructure will be a catalyst for private investment within the district, and utilizing that private investment then generates that increment. We've used tax increment finance in Manhattan several times. I'll embarrass Creighton Glasscock a little bit. His father was part of some of the 1980s action in the town center, and his father also helped with downtown redevelopment number 2, where we established TIF districts north and south of the mall. And that was an opportunity for us and has been very successful to leverage growth north of the mall and south of the mall. And we are currently in debt service and will expire. For Star bonds, we leveraged about $50 million downtown from the state. We'll have those bonds paid off in 2021, and we'll have our TIF bonds retired in 2026. Next slide. So how does TIF work? It's basically over time you're generating a fund that you can capture the increment generated in property taxes. The best example I have for you is there's a hotel under construction at 12th and Bluemont. That's a Marriott Courtyard. You've probably noticed the inconvenience of a single lane on Bluemont next to Starbucks. That is it's a bottleneck, and it's going to be there for about a year. That hotel will go under construction essentially near the beginning of this TIF district. The valuation of that property before construction will probably dip down to $500,000. When they're done with construction, the value of that property will be upwards of $14 or $15 million. What we'll be able to do with that property is basically capture their property taxes, the incremental difference between being valued at $500,000 and about $14 million over the 20-year period. It alone will generate $5 million that we can put back into the district itself. Now, you have to get permission from the county. You have to get permission from the school district to do these because it's clearly drawing revenues away from their base. But it's kind of one of those but-for tests. If the if the project wasn't going to happen, if the catalysts weren't there and the city wasn't participating, would that development take place? And a lot of times with TIF districts, you make the argument that the investment you're making back in the public infrastructure is actually encouraging that private development. We own the parking lot that the hotel is going in on. They paid us $800,000 for 15,000 square feet in Aggieville. It kind of gives you a frame of reference for what land values are. They're very high, but it was a catalyst type project we knew we wanted to take advantage of to generate that increment. Next slide. This is our boundary for the TIF district. We did go a block just to the east, all the way to 10th Street, down to Fremont, 14th Street, and then Bluemont on the north end. There's quite a process, all based in state statute, that you have to go through. You eventually establish your boundary, and then you adopt a plan. That plan really lays out how you plan to spend that money. In our case in Aggieville, the majority of what we're going to do is spend on public infrastructure. So streets, sidewalks, alleys, lighting, parks, and a green space. And we'll use that fund up front more than likely and leverage a bond. And we'll get into that financing here in a little bit. But it's a pretty intense process, a lot of paperwork. We work with bond counsel, and we get a lot of good advice on how to package these things. And again, it's a 20-year clock in order to capture that revenue. Next slide. So we hired a consultant who comes in and looks at the district, looks at the past, looks at the future, and starts to project what the district could be worth. These are actual revenues that were forecasted based on what we had planned, what we'd like to see take place in Aggieville. Just for a frame of reference, 20 years ago, Aggieville as a district was worth $20 million. Today, it's worth $60 million. The consultant estimated it would be worth $120 million in 20 years. That'll generate a range between $15 million and $20 million in total revenue over those 20-year period. Based on our interest rates today in bond finance, we can leverage anywhere from 10 to 11.5 million off those revenue streams. Meaning we could issue that debt today. There would be a buyer, be geo-backed, but there would be somebody in the marketplace based on those revenue forecasts that would buy that bond. And we could take that 10 to 11.6 million and put it in the infrastructure. So we have a gap. $30 million total. Our TIF's projected to generate 10 to 11.5 million bucks. Next slide. So with that gap, there's some different ways we can structure some of these projects. A benefit district really leans on the property owners that are adjacent to the public infrastructure, and you can assess them on an annual basis. Downtown, we assess those property owners 5% of the total project, and the city picked up 95%. More than likely, we'll structure something similar. We have other debt that we'll be looking at, and there's a ballot question this November to raise the sales tax rate in Manhattan from 8.95 to 9.25. That 0.3% sales tax would generate over $3 million annually. And that's a permanent sales tax that we would look to apply towards more than just Aggieville. There's several other projects that are included with that. We have a North Campus corridor. We have a levee that we need to raise next to our downtown by 3 feet. We have a runway out at the airport that's about a $50 million replacement and reconstruction. So we have close to about $90 to $100 million of a gap in finance. And over the next 25, 30 years with this increase in sales tax, we'd be able to come up with that funding. So that debt service, again, we'd be looking for that sales tax to make up a gap. If it doesn't pass, we'll come back to the community, prioritize our projects, and see if we can't leverage other revenue streams, or eventually talk about a property tax and a mill levy increase. Going to the voters for the sales tax is a discretionary item. They have to approve it. Asking the governing body to increase property taxes doesn't require.
Time for the speaker has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Snyder. It's been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Apologize for that. So the commission doesn't have to go to the electorate to raise the property taxes. And in the bond and interest fund, we currently have about 6 mills dedicated to debt in the community, and they could easily raise that without really checking back in with their voters at the time. Now, their constituent base may not approve of that, but it's been done, and it's done quite often with the city debt. So this is an opportunity for the citizens to weigh in. Would they rather see sales tax go to help fund these, or would they prefer the commission debate and decide whether or not a property tax increase would be prudent? The sales tax, I would just offer you, Manhattan's kind of unique. We have a pull factor of 1.3, which means of the $1 billion in sales that we do locally, 25% of that comes from people who don't live in the city limits of Manhattan. So the sales tax is a bit attractive to those who also have the burden of paying the property tax, to have those from outside the community actually help pay for some of these improvements. So I stand for questions at this point.
Are there any questions for our speaker? Director Bruner.
It does. A lot of our infrastructure, as I mentioned, is really wall to wall. So as you step out of a business, you're on public sidewalk, public street, all the alleyways. Yes, lighting is absolutely essential. The parking garage we're talking about constructing, we want to be very well lit, both on the interior and exterior, and we're hoping to have an RCPD presence in the garage and move them out of their substation on Morrow and into the parking garage to add security for that structure as well.
Further questions? Senator Beasley.
So, speaking of wall to wall, let's talk about the ceiling that you are suggesting putting in. Is there like any meetings that are taking place discussing that?
So the roof that's been proposed has really come from the Aggieville Business Association. It's not something that city staff has offered. When we started the process a couple of years ago, we looked at what Power and Light had done with KC Live and recognized the overhead protecting from the elements, but connecting to businesses that allowed consumption of alcohol and different events to take place in there. We didn't find a concept or a workable solution at this point in time, but the ABA came out with covering Morrow, much like Fremont Street in Vegas, as an idea.
Further questions? Senator Rivera.
Definitely for the parking garage. They typically, whether you do precast or cast in place type of construction, they both have their own maintenance schedules. Parking maintenance itself, parking management, so we'll have to hire probably an additional person or two. You're going to start to see charging for parking in Aggieville. The garage will likely be much like the garage here, charged to park there. On-street parking, more than likely going to have it as well. And we'll probably extend that boundary a little bit to get into City Park and some of the surrounding neighborhoods to avoid too much close by parking as an alternative. We'll regulate that in some way. But the maintenance, yes, you've got all types of maintenance that takes place both with the streets and the sidewalks and the alleyways. We'd really like to get the overhead power lines below grade to get that aesthetic cleaned up, as well as consolidating trash and grease. So when we walk down our alleys or in the streets, we're not dealing with those two services.
Further questions? Do you have a follow-up? Granted.
So, because you're doing a TIF, will this make this a community improvement district? And if so, would that channel funding for maintenance so that you don't have to revitalize every X amount of years?
Yeah, community improvement districts really rely on sales tax in order for those funds to be generated. They're a little bit more difficult to establish because the owners have to agree. With TIFs, you don't necessarily have to go door to door and get permission, but with CIDs and TDDs, you do have to have, I believe, 55 or 60% of the owners actually agree to it. It would be a way to generate funds over time. It's an additional tax that would have to be placed on those businesses, and it's just not something at this point we've explored. I know there's a lot to do in Aggieville, but comparatively speaking, it doesn't generate a lot of sales tax for the community when it comes to our rates that we apply. When we think about CIDs, we think about downtown and the mall, or north and south of the mall, where 250,000 square feet of retail is generating a significant amount of money. CIDs work well, or TDDs work well in those areas. So at this point in time, we haven't contemplated that.
Further questions? Senator Hines.
With the parking garage, will there be a pass-like system? And if so, will students have a discounted?
More than likely, our discounted rate will be for employees in Aggieville. Other than that, there might be times of the day that may have a different rate than others. We visited the Haymarket in Lincoln and found they had a different rate during the day for daytime workers, 8 to 5. But as soon as 5 rolled around through the evening and on weekends, they had a higher rate. They actually even sell off stalls for Nebraska football games every year in all their garages in their Haymarket area. So there's opportunities for us to structure this in a variety of ways. I can't imagine, I just don't see right now a discount for students being so close to campus and the parking scenarios that you all deal with every day. A lot of the businesses would like to see Aggieville be there for Aggieville use.
Time.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator King. It's been moved and seconded to extend time for questions by 10 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, are there any further questions? Senator Snyder.
Do you expect support from the property management in Aggieville over the tax increase?
So a TIF is actually not a tax increase. What it does over time is it captures the growth that occurs within the district itself. So there's not an actual increase that's imposed on any particular owner. What Aggieville has seen over time, though, is exponential growth. So if you owned a property 20 years ago, it's likely to be about 3 times the property value that it was then. So you are paying more taxes, but there's not a specific imposed tax that you'll have to pay in addition to what you already pay. You'll pay your property taxes. What it does is it freezes the level for 2019 all the way through 2039 for where it goes to the city, the county, and the school district. Where it is above that, we get to capture and put in a tax increment finance fund.
Granted.
What about the 3%, the 0.3% sales tax question in November?
The 0.3 is a permanent tax. Currently, we have a 1% tax that is permanent. We have several that sunset within a 10-year period by state statute. We have the capability to go up to 2% as a first-class city. So if it passes, the 1.3% then would apply indefinitely in the community.
Any further questions? Senator Al-Abdullah.
My question for you will be more about the engaging with the students with Aggieville. Have you guys discussed or talked about what should we as students study to book in Aggieville in terms of art, in terms of cleaning, in terms of community service, so we can give back to Aggieville since we use it heavily in the fall and the spring. So I really need to hear more about your input about this.
Yeah, and in 2016 and 2017, we hired a local firm, New Boston, who developed a survey. Those survey results are on that website. We did get a lot of feedback and input from students, as well as business owners, as well as the community. We put that survey out, and on 2 occasions, we had one that was done by city staff just a year prior. We received almost 5,000 responses. We did one almost a year and a half later, and had about 4,500 responses. And for a community survey, we know Aggieville is a hot topic. And there's a lot of feedback and a lot of good input that was received over the course of those 2 surveys. I can't quote you directly what was in those surveys, but it was a lot about just feedback relative to what exists, what problems do we have, what would you like to see in the future. So we did hear a little bit about more restaurants, more retail, other types of businesses people would like to see in Aggieville. The cleanliness, it was addressed as well as something that they'd like to see the city take on. Currently, all the trash services in Aggieville are independent. We have about 7 different haulers in Manhattan, and they're all present in Aggieville, which means there are trash trucks through Aggieville every day. Deliveries need to be coordinated. You have deliveries taking place anywhere from 6 a.m., maybe even 5 a.m., all the way through the middle of the afternoon. And there's ways to coordinate that and create a much safer and cleaner environment. we're definitely interested in hearing more from the students if there's a mechanism. We do have public hearings. We do put things out for folks to come, just like last night's meeting. We pushed that through our social media to try to get as many people there as we possibly could.
Granted.
Follow-up. Did you guys think about creating engagement as a group between SGA or anything in the campus with Aggieville, like the council? That's a group can be really more engaging for giving students more contribute to Aggieville, and you guys can help them in the other side.
Just the question, please.
That's just my question.
Yeah.
Have you guys think about that?
It's definitely something on the radar, and if we do need to do more, we're happy to do that as well. That's an open line of communication. Happy to insert that, and we can go back to our consultants and ask them if they have some ideas on how to engage the SGA and other students.
Okay, further questions? Chair Booz.
Thank you for coming out. You talked about how this TIF could be up to $20 million in revenue. Can you give us an idea of like maybe what percentage of Manhattan revenues would be in the TIF at that time or over time?
Yeah, so the valuation in Manhattan is right around 600 million in total. So when you look at Aggieville today, of about 60 million, it's roughly 10% of the valuation. It's a heat center. It's a real, when you're talking about land values in Aggieville, you're looking at $50 and $60 a square foot. A lot of residential properties are a fraction of that. Downtown, you can get into the $25 and $30 a square foot, but Aggieville has a tremendous value. When that Bluemont Hotel went in and those properties started selling along Bluemont in order to facilitate that construction, they were starting at $30 and $40 a square foot, got to $50 real quick. Even recently, we've seen $75 a square foot in terms of property changing hands. So it's a significant piece in the community. When you look at developers from Kansas City and Wichita, they're a little bit taken aback at how expensive that property is. But it speaks to also the parking issue that we have. They've been hamstrung with about 500 available stalls in Aggieville for multiple decades. The property values keep going up, which is interesting because they're highly sought after. You all know what uses are down there. Those owners, they're not the ones who have the bars. There's clearly tenants, and those tenants are willing to pay a pretty high rent to be there, to be next to you all and next to that campus so they can leverage their asset. But the owners' rents just keep going up, which speaks to the types of user that has to make their business go with very little parking. And that doesn't happen anywhere else in the community. The Targets and the Walmarts and the Home Depots, they have plenty of parking right out front their door. And that doesn't happen in Aggieville. So you're somewhat limited given the rents they're receiving and the limited amount of parking to the types of uses that you'll see in the district. We're hoping to change that a little bit. If we can double the parking and get over 900 stalls with the garage and the surface, maybe that'll generate a little bit more private development that'll switch that use out a little bit.
Further questions? Senator King.
So with multiple developments going on in Aggieville, what environmental practices is Aggieville taking to kind of create Aggieville more of an eco-friendly place?
That's a good question. ABA changes a director about every 1.5 to 2 years. It's a very difficult district to represent collectively and gain momentum. Since I've worked for the city since '99, I've engaged and worked with a half dozen different directors. And it's a difficult position. They represent a lot of different interests, and it's hard for them to really gain a lot of momentum in areas like this. They are interested in the consolidated trash and grease, and that's really the most obvious thing just walking around Aggieville. There's not a lot of landscaping. It suffers. It's a very hot area, so we want to try to bring some shade and some trees and some green space into Aggieville. If you look at those concepts, though, you'll see there's not a lot. We're limited on space, and there's so many people that walk on those sidewalks at different times during the day. We don't want to create, 5-foot walkways and have the rest of the sidewalks taking up with other amenities. So we're trying to bring some of those amenities out into the street. You'll see a one-way scenario on 12th Street that allows us to plant trees and bring benches and shade coverings to allow a much more friendly environment. 12th Street between Morrow and Laramie in the future plans eliminates cars completely. And we're going to bring those sidewalks really throughout the entire corridor and bring a lot of different trees, green space, shrubs, flowers, and a lot of different amenities in that area.
Further questions? Senator Lomchek.
Yeah, and we get this question a lot, and I think you just stop and think about who goes to Aggieville and when. It's such a destination for a lot of people that don't live in Manhattan. What we found in those surveys of 4,500 and 5,000, we had 25%, almost 30% that doesn't even live in Manhattan that were filling those out. So they're young alumni that are moved out of Manhattan. They're in Kansas City, they're in Wichita, and further cities away. They love coming back to Manhattan, and they love to park in the district and visit it and take advantage of all the amenities that are there. We recognize
Time.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Beasley.
I move that we extend the speaker's time by 5 minutes.
It's been moved and seconded to extend time for questions by 5 minutes. Go ahead.
So the garage in itself will serve a lot of different functions, both for the visitor, but it also gives those property owners an asset, an inventory that they then can look to invest in their property and not have to provide all the parking, whether it be for office space, residential space, or additional retail and commercial.
Any further questions for a speaker? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
Why doesn't the TIF district follow the same line as the Aggieville district?
So we went a block to the east in order to react to some residential pressure. Our preference would be less residential in the district itself, but we knew we've had so much interest from national developers to come in and throw up several hundred units within the district. And our preference would be retail, commercial, office, and then a limited amount of upper scale type of residential. So we went to a block to the east in order to accommodate some of that future potential growth. That block, those 3 blocks really from Bluemont down to Fremont between 11th and 10th are a lot of single family homes that are occupied by students as rentals, and they haven't quite converted to the complexes that you see throughout the multifamily redevelopment overlay district adjacent to North Manhattan, along Raton and Vitier, Kearney, Bertrand. So that's an area that we felt like we could possibly capture some growth here. Other than that, it really didn't have a specific definition.
Granted.
And so is that why like Bluemont Hotel isn't included in that because that's already developed out?
So by state law, TIF districts can meet a definition, or they can be within an enterprise zone that was established prior to 1992. And we have an enterprise zone that was established prior to 1992, and it stops at Bluemont, so we can't go north of it.
Okay, any further questions for our speaker? Maggie?
So just kind of like with the nature of the nightlife of Aggieville, with all of the additional cars coming in, the 400-ish additional parking spaces, I know you mentioned the Riley County Police Department inside the parking garage. What sort of precautions will be taken to make sure that people, aren't driving under the influence or the pedestrians are safe with all the construction, things like that?
Yeah, in the short term, we have a parking management plan that we hope will address some of those issues. And during construction, we just met, we went through a process to hire a construction manager at risk. We just finished those interviews yesterday. We'll be making a recommendation to the commission on November 5th. That contractor, this was a big question during the interview process, just how secure can you keep your site? There's going to be video detection, there's going to be lighting. We talked to them about actually having PD's control of the lighting. So say at 1 o'clock in the morning, they can flip on all the lights, and at 3 a.m. they can shut them off as soon as the district clears out. I'll tell you, PD wants that everywhere in Aggieville. They would love to light that thing up like this room at 1:30 in the morning and until everybody disperses and then shut them down. That's an option we can look at. It'll clearly make it safer. You're going to be very visible along those sidewalks and streets until you get in your vehicles or you walk to your residences.
Are there any further questions for our speaker? Caucus Leader Spellman.
As a person that lives in that block east of Aggieville, do you expect the TIF district to have any impact on students, whether parking or like rental costs?
No, and as I mentioned, it's not an additional tax. It's just the ability to capture that growth over time. With it in place, a developer may have more interest than not. There are ways to invest with TIF funds or other city funds in the event we do get a proposal. I don't see it impacting anybody in the near term from a rent perspective or just a public infrastructure perspective at all.
Any further questions for our speaker? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for coming. All right, and with that, our second open period speaker this evening is Dr. Brian Samuel, Chief Diversity Officer.
And there you go. Thanks so much for coming.
I haven't gotten an applause like that in years. Do it again. Thank you all for having me. I know I only got 10 minutes, and so I'm going to be very, very brief. I was asked to speak about climate survey, but a couple other things I want to put on your radar. We are about 2.5, not quite 3 weeks out from KS Unite. You should see the signs in the Union and on the plaza, sidewalk. Uh-oh.
All right, remain calm.
Wasn't me.
I am not singing up here, right? Okay.
All right, we're back.
So you should see the advertisement, sidewalk painting, signs and things going up. We're going to put one up by the library, if not tomorrow, first thing next week or what have you. We are very excited about KS Unite. We've been working on it real hard since about February or March. A lot of good sessions and things of that nature. About 20 sessions, we put out a call, got a lot of good response. We got everything from religion to race to sexual violence, domestic violence. We got information on things like intersectionality and cultural learning. A lot of good stuff here. And the one thing I would have you take away from this and share with all your peers and even many of your faculty and staff that you engage with every day is if an individual participated in something like this outside of K-State campus, it would probably cost them a couple $1,000s to do it. You would have to pay a registration fee of $700-800. You would have to get a plane ticket to go to wherever it is. You know, you probably had to get a hotel room or something, a Uber from the airport to the hotel. I mean, it would take some doing. So I think that we are one of a few campuses across the country that's given this kind of quality educational engagement opportunity to our students, our faculty, our staff, our community members at no charge. So please come out and participate in KS Unite. I think it's a real good thing for us. The next thing I want to say, the President's Commission on Multicultural Affairs, which President Myers has asked me to lead since I came here a little more than 18 months ago, is working on a strategic diversity and inclusion plan, looking at things that are going to be important to our campus as we go through the K-State 2025 strategic plan refresh, all right? So we're exploring a number of different things, looking at things like student access and success, how students are doing, getting into K-State, graduating, joining programs, finding meaningful engagement and things of that nature. We're also going to be looking at climate. We're going to be looking at things like teaching and learning and diversity in the curriculum. We're going to be looking at things like workforce diversity. You know, you see faculty and staff that represent all the different diversities of identity that exist here. And then, of course, institutional viability and vitality, what people know about us, and inclusive excellence. Those are all some of the things that we're thinking about. Now, the matter for which I'm here, campus climate survey. The president has asked myself and Jay Stevenson, who is the Vice President for Human Capital Services, to kind of lead this initiative in determining what, if anything, we can do to execute a good and successful campus climate survey. And so we've been working on this going back to last year. We met with all the different employee groups, Faculty Senate, USS, PSA, the affinity group, so forth and so on, Directors Roundtable. About 120 people participated in these conversations to see what are some things that had taken place, what are some things that still need to be done, you know, where are we? What, if anything, resulted from the campus climate survey that we did in the fall of 2014? So we got a lot of good information. We know that we had some challenges and some things that probably didn't go as well as we like, and our goal is to have a good product for this campus that we can deploy sometime in the not too distant future. The way we're going to do that is we're going to work with a steering committee that's going to help us kind of figure out what we need to be thinking about, how we need to be approaching it, what type of questions we need to ask students and staff. And then there's going to be a survey team that's going to help us develop those questions, the information that we want to measure. And then finally, there's going to be some focus groups. And those focus groups will include students, faculty, and staff who will be invited to engage in some activities to kind of help us think about some things that are important, good things, things that are not so good, and everything in between. I have asked ILC, student government, and the MSOs to nominate students to participate and serve in those focus groups. And I'm hopeful that each of these entities will send forward 3 names or so, and we can take those names and create at least 2 good student focus groups that will meet and engage around those questions and activities and help us think about our approach to what kind of questions we want to ask, what type of topics we want to cover, what type of things are, you know, kind of K-State specific that may not be seen or witnessed or experienced at other campuses and things of that nature, so we can get a very, very good survey out for our campus community. That was not 10 minutes, right? But I wanted to make sure I hit all those points, and at this time, I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions or rude remarks that you might have.
Are there any questions for our speaker? Senator Rivera.
I just want to know if there would be extra security at KS9.
We have been working with security. They participate here and there, and pretty much we anticipate nothing different from what happened last year. All the activities are going to take place here in the building, so we're feeling pretty good about it, if that helps. I'm not a police officer, so I don't know exactly what they're going to do, so I can't speak credibly about their strategies and tactics, but I know they are on alert and ready for it.
All right, any further questions for our speaker? Senator Kelly.
Hey. Yeah. First of all, I want to say that's a bit of a conundrum for all of American higher education, okay? Here at K-State, our posture has been to cancel classes from 12:30 to 3:30. However, some classes, some specialty classes like labs and stuff that meet once a week or those different kind of classes for which cancellation may not be appropriate. We have allowed those faculty members to exercise their discretion about whether or not classes, that particular course will be canceled. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Follow-up is, so you have student panelists, do you have any outside lecturers or anyone who is not a student that's gonna be talking about diversity and explaining that to students on campus?
Who is not a student? Oh, absolutely. Nathan, would you scroll? I said Nathan, but you know what I meant. Yeah. Now, go back, hit the link. Yeah, there you go. Hit that. All right. So that's kind of the schedule. The march starts at 12:30. Many of you should get some information from your deans and your faculty in the colleges about where you're going to gather and march to the Union. About 1 o'clock, the program will get started in the ballroom. We got the courtyard and forum hall for overflow. And somewhere around 5 or 10 to 2, we'll break out of the auditorium for the 20 breakout sessions that we have. We're doing 10 and 10. So each of those will have about 45 minutes or so for the different breakout session. If you scroll down, you can click on either one of them, but keep scrolling, keep scrolling. These are the speakers that are going to be on the panelists. Your very own Jansen Penny. We've always been fortunate to partner with student government in the planning and realization of KS Unite, so we're happy to continue doing that. And then you can see the students and faculty and others who are going to be speaking on the different topics and where they'll be located and the actual title of their talk. And if you keep scrolling, you'll see other students and faculty members, some in tandem, some by themselves. So I feel real good about it. I really do. I'm excited.
Are there any other questions? Senator Lund.
Well, the first piece is trying to understand what we need to survey, okay? And so after we get that kind of identified, we'll create some questions. We'll hopefully pilot those questions to kind of make sure they're doing what we need them to do. And then we'll do the survey at some point in time, hopefully spring of 20, if everything goes well. And then after the survey data is gathered and analyzed, that will inform the action items for the campus. I can tell you that a major piece of that will be very tightly coupled with whatever we do for the strategic diversity and inclusion plan, which climate is one of those themes that we're looking at.
Any further questions? Senator Al-Abdullah.
As a diversity law principle, do you think there is a topic or there is a subject we as a student should talk with each other about it in terms of diversity? And you think it's a challenge right now for you students to be engaged with each other about this topic?
Do I think there is a topic that students should be engaged with each other about in terms of diversity? Absolutely. I think there are several. Carte blanche respect for each other, right? You know, one of the things, some of you may know me, right? Meaning we've interacted in meetings and had lunch or talked to each other or whatnot. One of the things that I was really, really attracted to this campus and this university and its history was when I found out that in 1863, we were open to women and minorities without regard to race, gender, and creed. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and my mother, my father, nobody in my family could go to that university, even though it was a mile or two max from my house. So my point is, we have a very, very long history of doing this. So our ability and willingness to interact well and meaningfully with each other should be second to none.
Time.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Coker. It's been moved and seconded to extend time for questions for 5 minutes. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, are there any further questions for Dr. Samuel? All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Are there any further open period speakers? Union employees, good? Yeah, okay, just wanted to confirm. All right, we'll now move into approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve this? Senator King. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Announcements for this week. First, I wanted to inform everybody that we will be having Student Senate next Thursday, October 1st, might be a holiday. It's important we're able to keep legislative process moving, and then we have ample opportunities for student senators to submit legislation, especially while we're in this JCOG window of approval or disapproval. Please, if you choose to take an unexcused absence next week, please still fill out the proxy form indicating that you will not be in attendance. Additionally, Senate Exec has talked about this for 2 weeks in a row, and we're really committed to trying to minimize reports. There's no open period speakers next week, and so we'll try to keep things as brief as possible on our end. Secondly, next Tuesday is the Safe Housing Summit from 7 to 8:30 in the Union Ballroom. Third, the 2020 census is now taking applications for positions, both full and part-time. I sent out more information with the agenda. Next, the application for Attorney General is now live. Contact Peter Moyer with any questions. The link's attached in the agenda. And additionally, I'll need 3 members from the legislative branch to serve on the Attorney General Selection Committee. If you are interested and also available on November 19th from 6 to 9, please contact me as soon as possible. Proxies for the week are Booz for Boykin, Glasscock for Cruz, Huffman for Smith, Kidd for Cox, Rivera for Belina, Wallace for Ward, and Watkins for Carr. I do have one other side announcement. If Senator Pruse will stand up really quick, wave your hand. If you guys haven't met Olivia, she had an idea to start doing, they're called Senate shout-outs. So she's going to be passing around this folder, and if you know of somebody, a student senator, intern, anybody here who's doing something awesome, either in SGA or outside of it, there's instructions on the folder, but be sure to submit one, and Olivia is going to come up with her mentee and recognize those people at the end. Yes. SGA members of the week are parliamentarian Max Harmon for all his work last Thursday, fielding parliamentary inquiries during Senate and planning pizza and part law. And additionally, caucus leader Sarah Pelton and the College of Business Caucus for their extensive outreach to JIMBA 110 classes this week. The quote of the week is, "We both believe that even in partisan politics, sometimes justice could carry the day." Trey Gowdy on the death of Elijah Cummings. We'll next move into commendations. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 40? Senator Coger. It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 40. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 192040, Commendation to the 2019 Stamy & Gotchis Teaching Award winners by Nathan Bothwell. Whereas the College of Arts and Sciences has announced the 2019 winners of the William L. Stamy Awards for undergraduate teaching and advising, as well as the winners of the Ronald N. Gotchis Teaching Awards. Whereas the College of Arts and Sciences awards the William L. Stamy Awards in order to recognize excellence in teaching and advising. Whereas Alina de la Mota Penado, Teaching Assistant Professor of Biology, and Alessandra Stoyan, Assistant Professor of Political Science, were recipients of the Stamy Undergraduate Teaching Award. Whereas Eve McCulloch, Teaching Assistant Professor and Advisor of Biology, was the recipient of the Stamy Advising Award. Whereas Tucker Jones, Graduate Student in Psychological Sciences, was the recipient of the Stamy GTA Teaching Award. Whereas the College of Arts and Sciences awards the Ronald N. Gotchis Teaching Awards to acknowledge ongoing excellence in undergraduate teaching, as well as teaching innovations that improve pedagogical practices within the college. Whereas Steffi Dippold, Associate Professor of English, was the recipient of the Gotchis Undergraduate Teaching Award, and whereas Carolyn Ferguson, Professor of Biology, was the recipient of the Gotchis Lifetime Teaching Award. Be it resolved that Section 1, Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends the work of the Stamy & Gotchis Awards winners. KSU SGA recognizes the valuable contributions that professors and advisors make to the student experience in the College of Arts and Sciences. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to all recipients of the William L. Stamey and Ronald N. Gotches Teaching Awards, Political Science Department Head Sam Bell, Biology Department Director Brian Spooner, English Department Head Karen Westman, Psychological Sciences Department Head Michael Young, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences Amit Chakrabarty, and University President Richard B. Myers.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve Resolution 40? Senator Coleman.
I move to approve Resolution 40 unanimously. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 40 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, this resolution is approved. All right, with that, is there a motion to consider Resolution 41? Chair Booth. It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 41. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 1920-41, Commitment to the Kansas State University Education Council by Ashleen Gillespie and Natalia Rodriguez. Whereas Kansas State University's Education Council hosts an annual C2 Speakers Forum, whereas this year's the forum revolved around getting a job offer after college and provided a coffee and chocolate bar to students in attendance, whereas principals from Manhattan High School, Transit Newell, and Michael Doors gave College of Education student tips on how to set up effective resumes and how to interview for teaching jobs, and whereas 90 students from the College of Education were in attendance and benefited from this event, be it resolved that Section 1, Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends the Kansas State University Education Council for their efforts in providing College of Education students opportunities to prepare for their post-college careers. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signatures of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Trina Harlow and Dr. Tony Martinez, Education Council Advisors, Debbie Mercer, Dean of the College of Education, and University President Richard B. Myers.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this resolution? Senator Coker.
I move we approve this resolution unanimously. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this resolution unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 41 is approved. Moving into approval of appointments, is there a motion to consider Resolution 42? Caucus Leader Spelman. It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 42. Will the authors please come forward?
Okay. Resolution 19-2042, approval of SGA Phase 2 interns by Lily Colburn and Julia Howie. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association KSU SGA intern program was sufficiently advertised, whereas 35 individuals attended at least 3 of Phase 1 of the SGA intern program sessions from September 12th to October 10th, whereas 33, this needs to be amended to say 34 of those individuals applied to Phase 2 of the SGA intern program, and whereas we selected all 34 of those students to continue on to Phase 2, be it resolved that Section 1, the following individuals be approved as Kansas State University Student Governing Association Phase 2 interns for the 2019-2020 term. Adam Dean Voranville, Alexa Shear, Allison Eichman, Anna Schmidt, Ashley Fox, Ashley Grills, Blake Phillips, Bronte Weisner, Bryce Atchison, Cash McVeigh, Kathleen Cowell, Dalton Shields, Dominic Girac, Dominic Victor, Emma McKee, Emmett Keene, Eric Etchegary, Garrick Westermajor, Gracia Barron, Haley Nunnick, Jeff Ebeck, Kern Kinnan, Kinsley Searles, Lily Abadir, Maggie Billman, Marta Richenberg, Megan Splickle, Michael Arnold, Rachel Gomez, Sarah Haggard, Scout Mulder, Sophia Pausick, Suman Wang, and Megan Jakes is the addition.
Right. Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Senator Coker.
In line 37, Derek is spelled with the G at the end instead of J.
Thank you. Sorry, Jared.
You got that? Garrig. You said the J. I know your
Any
name's
further
Garrig.
questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this resolution? Chair Booth. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 42 unanimously. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, this resolution is approved, and if all of the Phase 2 interns will come to the front to get sworn in.
Okay, will you guys all please raise your right hand? And then at the end of what I say, you will all say, I will. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Phase 2 intern and will, to the best of my ability, will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. I will. Okay, and now you'll all go through and say your name, major, hometown, and favorite smell.
Okay, so my name is Bryce Atchison. I'm majoring in agricultural education, and I'm from Tonganoxie, Kansas. I would have to say my favorite smell is flowers.
Hi, my name is Bronte Weisner. I'm majoring in biology. I'm from Edna, Kansas, and my favorite smell is Smarties.
I'm Haley Nunnick. I'm from Shawnee, Kansas. I'm majoring in poli-sci pre-law, and I have been thinking about my favorite smell all day, and I can't. I'm just gonna go with peonies. Whoever said it last week gave me the idea, and the flower. They're really pretty. They smell awesome. But yeah.
Hi, I'm Alexis Shear. I'm from Topeka, Kansas, majoring in poli-sci. My favorite smell would have to be cold.
My name is Rachel Brolmus. I'm also from Topeka, Kansas. My major is communication studies, and my favorite smell is cucumber melon.
I'm Allie Eichmann. I'm a marketing major from Fulton, Missouri, and my favorite smell is brownies being baked in the oven.
Hi, I'm Marta. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and my major is history and pre-law, and my favorite scent is vanilla.
Oh, who am I laughing at? Hi, I'm Scout Mulder. Stole my thunder. I'm a freshman in political science and pre-law, and my favorite smell is probably like fall, like with the burning leaves and everything, like how it smells outside literally right now. That's probably my favorite. That thing is like falling off.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from Topeka, Kansas. I'm dual majoring in biochemistry and Spanish, and I'd have to say that my favorite smell is my mom's homemade cinnamon rolls.
That's so cute. Hi, I'm Kathleen Cowell. I'm from Larned, Kansas, and I'm majoring in poli-sci, and my favorite smell is rain.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dalton Shields. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm looking to major in finance, and my favorite smell is Bath and Body Works.
Hello, my name is Suman Wayne. I'm a freshman in computer science. I'm from Manhattan, Kansas, and my favorite smell would probably be steak.
All right, howdy. My name is Dominic Victor. I'm majoring in finance, and I'm from Lynn Valley, Kansas. And my favorite smell is so it's like Saturday morning, and I walk down the stairs, and I can smell the freshly baked muffins that my mom just made. That's how you know it's gonna be a good day.
All right. I'm Adam D. Moranville. I'm from Tonganoxie, Kansas.
My major is entrepreneurship, and I think my favorite smell would probably have to be lemon.
I'm Blake Phillips. I am a freshman in Management Information Systems, and my favorite smell is cleaning supplies. Oh, Tonganoxie, Kansas.
I'm Emmett Keene. I'm from Tonganoxie, Kansas. I'm a major in finance, and my favorite smell is gasoline.
My name is Lily Abadier. I am from Olathe, Kansas, majoring in strategic communications, and my favorite smell is freshly baked cookies.
My name is Ashley Grills. I'm from Overland Park, Kansas. I'm majoring in poli-sci and minoring in Spanish. I'm about to switch to human resources though. What's next? My favorite smell is like a mango candle.
Okay, my name is Anna Schmidt, and I am majoring in journalism and mass comm, and I'm from Wichita, Kansas. My favorite smell is like an old library book that you just opened up.
Hi, I'm Megan Spleakle. I'm from Olathe, Kansas. I'm currently majoring in business management and pre-law, and my favorite smell is salted caramel.
Hi, my name's Kern. I'm from Lenexa, Kansas. I'm in poli-sci and pre-law. My favorite smell is hand sanitizer.
Okay. All right. I'm Garrick Westermeyer from Olathe, Kansas. Yeah. What else? Oh, I'm a business management major, and my favorite smell would have to be my mom's cinnamon rolls as well.
I'm Eric Echegaray. I'm from Cusco, Peru. I'm majoring in political science and pre-law, and my favorite smell is probably new book.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Cash McVeigh. I'm from St. John, Kansas. I'm majoring in business management. Oh, my favorite smell, probably cedar wood or pine, either one.
Hi, I'm Jeff Ebeck. I'm from Wellsville, Kansas. I'm majoring in finance, and my favorite smell is funnel cakes.
Hi, my name is Maggie Billman. I am majoring in secondary education. My emphasis is in English. I'm from Altamont, Kansas, and my favorite smell is my granny.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Arnold. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering, and my favorite smell is fresh powder on the slopes.
I'll go sit down. Okay, interns, that means that you guys now have speaking rights. Very exciting. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and find our seats, please. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move into committee chair reports. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report? Chair Booz.
All right. Hello, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Andrew Boos, and I am the Senate Operations Committee Chair, which is one of the standing committees. And every week, I've been doing this segment that is now reminding me of a podcast segment. But anyway, which is I tell you what went on in Senate Ops this week in regards to elections. And so on Monday, we met and talked with the Elections Commissioner, Haley Spellman, and I think that may have been it. So please come, people. About the responsibilities of the Elections Commissioner and trying to collect them, as well as making sure that if the Elections Commissioner is removed during an election season, that the people appointing them would not be someone who is currently running for election. And so
We seem to have knocked out the first part pretty quickly. We'll see about that, and then we'll talk. Knocked out the second part pretty quickly, and then we'll talk about the first part a little later. Actually, next Monday. So if you're interested in that at all, come to Senate Operations at 8 o'clock on next Monday in CSI, the CSI conference room. And then hopefully this topic should be faster, and we should have a bill in front of you in introduction in 2 weeks from now. So that would be great. So then to avoid doing a committee chair report next week because it's Halloween, I'm also going to tell you that, yeah, we should be finalizing that bill in Senate Ops Monday, the Monday before, the Monday after Halloween. So please come to that as well if you're at all interested in the duties or who picks the elections commissioner. Thank you. That's all I had.
All right. Are there any questions for Chair Booz? Coordinator Colburn. There hasn't been any more discussion since the last time that question was asked. If you'd like that to occur, come talk to me. Right. Are there any further questions? All right. Seeing none, are there any further committee reports? Chair Watkins.
Okay, so this is going to be my last reminder, but next Tuesday is the Safe Housing Forum at the K-State Ballroom from 7 to 8:30. Senate Exec tentatively has been canceled, so if you're planning on going to that, go to the Safe Housing Forum instead.
All right. Are there any questions for Chair Watkins? All right. Seeing none, further committee reports? Senator Rodriguez? I should say Vice Chair Rodriguez.
Hello. So for DEI, we're about to start our outreach program. So we're going to start with 8 different organizations from underrepresented communities, which are the African Student Union, Asian American Student Union, Black Student Union, Hispanic American Leadership Organization, Native American Student Association, Out in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and Sexuality and Gender Alliances, as well as United Black Voices. So if any other SGA members are interested in being part of our outreach program, we will more than love you to have you over. Just let me know if you're interested, if wanting to go to any of these organizations. And later on, either this semester or next semester, we're gonna add more organizations so we can all participate as well. Yep.
All right, are there any questions? All right, seeing none, any further committee reports? Any directors' reports? Elections Commissioner Spelman.
All right, I have 2 quick announcements for tonight. The first one is with the Elections Committee. The application closes tomorrow at midnight, so if you are interested in filling that out, please do so. I sent an email earlier this week with the link, so go back into your inbox and find that link and please apply. Second announcement is primarily just echoing what Chair Booz said during his committee report. If you're interested in coming to Senate Operations and having the election conversation, I'd just like to extend that opportunity and invite you to that meeting as well. I stand for questions.
All right. Are there any questions for Elections Commissioner Spelman? All right. Seeing none, further directors' reports? Pro Tem Bothwell.
Hi, everyone. I have just a couple things tonight to go over. First of all, about an hour before Senate started, everyone should have received the SGA handbook. Yay! So I'm finally delivering after I said the very first week that I would do it. I finally found the time to do it. If you're an intern from last year, it might look familiar to you because it is based off of what we did last year, but there's a lot of new section and new things in it. I would encourage everyone to read over it and look over it, because if you read my email, 2 weeks from now, during my director's report, we're going to be playing a Kahoot as SGA over information that was inside of that handbook. And the winner will receive free tickets for like free Call Hall ice cream. So there is an incentive to like study and learn more about SGA and different things. All of the questions will be coming out of that handbook. You won't have to look anywhere else for them. But I strongly encourage you to maybe like spend some time studying that handbook. Anyone is eligible to win. So like if you're an intern, even if you're the student body president, like you can win as long as you're playing that Kahoot. So I encourage everyone to work on it, because I'm excited to do this in just a couple weeks. And then my other report is that next week, I'm trying to introduce the legislation to create another special committee this year. So one of the things I'm working on is to make a special committee on diversity programming committee reform. There's been a lot of changes to the diversity programming committee over the years. And so we're just gonna kind of get a group that's gonna steer that forward. The reason why it's a special committee instead of just like a working group of other like senators is because we want members from outside of student government to be involved with that group. I'm really excited right now. The chair of that committee is actually going to be Delshay Roberts. She's been on DPC for the past 3 years, so she's got a lot of experience in that area. So even though she like currently doesn't have a role in SGA, she's got a lot of experience, and I'm really excited to work with her on that. So if you have any questions before when that legislation is introduced, please let me know. But I'm really excited to get this group going moving forward. That was like one of the things that I ran on as a platform, so I'm really excited to like see it out to fruition. So with that, I will stand for any questions that the body may have of me.
All right, are there any questions for Speaker Pro Tem Bothwell? All right, seeing none, further director's reports. President Penny.
Just a couple things. To follow up on the first open period speaker talking a little bit about what is happening with the city and then also the sales tax. The Chamber of Commerce is gracious enough to have the student body president sit as a standing director on that, and so they are talking through a lot of these different things, including that increased sales tax. So just want to give you a little bit more information on what that is. So it would increase the sales tax in Manhattan from 8.95% to 9.25%, and that would put us in the top 10 sales taxes of all the cities in Kansas, and that would move us up from about like 17, 18. And so that's what that would look like. And something that you won't see on the brochure, and sometimes it's kind of a little hard to pull out from the messaging. Really what it is when you look at it is they're saying if the sales tax doesn't pass, then they will add a property tax in order to pay for some of these things. So they talked about some of the different things that they're doing, and two of them that no matter what have to be done is building the levee around certain parts of the city, and then also refinishing, replacing a runway, and those are $13 and $5 million respectively. So those are things that have to get done. So if people vote down the sales tax, then we should pretty much expect a property tax increase there. And then something I want to touch on too, that there's a question asked about it, is what student input has been in on this. Here back in 2017, I know that I personally sat on a lot of different panels being an out-of-state student on what Aggieville looked like from that perspective being young. And there were dozens and dozens of students in a lot of those panels, taking surveys, yes, but also giving qualitative feedback too. And so there have been many opportunities for that, and now they're kind of in those later stages there. And then one thing that I'm going to emphasize that that Justin mentioned as well is the importance of coming to the Safe Housing Forum on Tuesday. I know that you might be thinking, sometimes this sounds like a broken record talking about safe and affordable housing. Well, something that I do want to point out, they have a brand new director and a brand new region reimagined kind of campaign, and almost like a new strategic plan for the entire area of Manhattan. And with that, they're trying to get their grounds on some of these situations so they can create some of those more specific task forces and kind of start biting off chunks with the brand new city commissioners who are going to be elected. And you guys will also see in the email that you got there is a flyer for a Census 2020 jobs that are available. Something that I don't know if it tells you on there, but those are between $12 and $14 an hour. So pays a lot better than some of the on-campus jobs, and they're really flexible. So that looks like a lot of different things. A lot of it is going to be walking door to door, but something that is very much emphasized is the importance of having students be in these roles when they're going to be knocking on doors of other students who live in your neighborhood, and really how important that is for like other students to be doing that to up our count there. And then lastly, in a tuition and fees strategies committee, we're going to be starting our next cycle here next Tuesday at 5:15 in the CSI conference room, and we're going to be starting on the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering, and Interim Dean Clark will be in to present on their fees that have been passed over the past years, and we will review the merits of those.
Right, are there any questions for President Penny? Director Land.
$14 to $16 an hour. That is a heck of a per hour rate, I'd say. Thank you.
All right, any further questions for President Penny? All right, seeing none, any other director's reports? Okay, we'll now move into college caucus time. Similarly to a few weeks ago now, we'll be doing small group discussions. If members of Senate exec that were there on Tuesday, plus Sadie, Jansen, and Max, if you guys will come to the front here. Okay, so we have a full house tonight because of interns, but I'm going to send you with your larger group, and then depending on your leaders' comfort levels, you guys will then like split in half and find your own place. Does that make sense to everybody? So your group might split in half. We have Justin and Donnie. Where are you guys? You guys go together, and you guys are going to have last names A and B. And you guys can go wherever. Your group's gonna be too big. You guys might split. All right, Jansen and Lily, you guys are gonna have C and D. If you guys will follow them out. Oh, go ahead and get up and go with your people. A and B, Justin and Donnie, C and D, Lily and Jansen. Max and Sadie are going to have G through J. You guys good? Last names G through J. Go ahead and follow them. Matt and Tell will have last names K through M. I don't know. Tell's already. Okay. Carson and Andrew will have N through R. If you'll follow him that way. Yeah, or whatever. Okay. Sounds good. And then Julia, Nathan, and Jackson, you guys will have S through Z.
Did you get it? Got it. Did that get hit before or did I hit?
It's gone.
No, it's
this. No, definitely not gone.
Yeah.
It's blinding.
It's the green button method. I fixed it. Maybe. I think I fixed it. I think I fixed it. The lights need to be set at 75%.
All right, let's go ahead and start working towards finding our seats, please. Okay, do you think I should? Okay, we're going to go ahead and resume with the agenda. Next, we have approval of minor allocations. Is there a motion to approve those? Caucus Leader Glasscock. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minor allocations. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, with that, the minor allocations is approved. With that, we'll move into final action. Will the author of Bill 21 please come forward? Have any changes been made?
Yes.
Would you walk us through those?
There, I will. So this Bill 21 went back to DEI last week. Very first thing we had to do was talk about the amendment that was left open on the bill. The microphone on? Oh, okay. So DEI, this Monday, we got our bill back, 21. First thing we talked about was the amendment that Nick left for us. We passed that amendment, and to remind you what that amendment was, it was at the very, very end. We changed 3 per semester to 6 per term. All that really did effectively manage the edge case, where you could interpret that as 3 per semester for all 3 semesters, including the one you got inaugurated and then the 2 afterwards. So we fixed that up. Not a super huge change. After that, we added, if you would direct your attention to line 85, we added, but not limited to, in between including and scheduled classes. So that kind of opens it up to other clauses there. 86 through 87, we struck and expected teaching assistant responsibilities, with that being implied with the other items in that category. 88, we struck documentable. Also on 88, before participation, we added non-recurring. 89, we struck as a representative of Kansas State. And line 91, we added and/ before the or, even though it's inclusive either way. It was for consistency.
All right, first right to the debate.
Yeah, so this bill, I think, has been fairly controversial since its introduction. I was not necessarily a proponent of it when it was first created, but as it is now, I think it's been polished. I think it's really shiny. I really like this bill as it is right now. The main idea behind this bill is providing senators more flexibility. They can manage their time on campus. So some of the big things were initially, right, we had that any absence indicated before 24 hours to the speaker was listed as excused, whereas now we've added some clauses to that excused absence to kind of, to people maybe asking for those excused absences, suggest what types of things it would be appropriate to miss Senate for. So we thought that was important to kind of steer perception of why you would want to miss Senate and why it's appropriate to take an absence sometimes. We kept the proportion of excused absences you can have to 1/2 of all Senate meetings. And a lot of the idea behind allowing so many excused absences is an absence is only excused, again, if you request a proxy for it, and if you're granted that proxy. And it also files under those circumstances that we listed. And as long as everyone who has an excused absence has listed a proxy, even if everyone who possibly can does so, each person who is a proxy for somebody else can be a proxy for one person. such that no more than half the Senate can be absent, because no more than half the Senate can get a proxy, so no more than half the Senate can get absences. Otherwise, some of the changes that we made more recently kind of suggest that these absences should be taken mainly, and as the bill was initially created, to suggest that people take absences to fulfill their commitments outside of Senate and give them more time to build upon those things. We suggest that those are for other commitments, especially when they're representing Kansas State or representing other facilities of their student life, because those are, while they haven't made a commitment to Senate, those are sometimes unavoidable and other times also important. So all in all, I think this bill is really important to making Senate, one, more accommodating to people, and two, making it more available for people to have a holistic and representative life as a student. And this bill, as it stands right now, I think one, accomplishes that, and two, does so while suggesting to students the type of thing or the type of absences that they should take for those sorts of reasons. And for that reason, I'll be voting yes on this bill, and I encourage you all to do the same. I really appreciate all the discussion that was had in the Senate last week about this bill. I think it's really productive, and all these weeks that we've spent polishing it off in DEI as well as in Senate, I think we've created a really fine bill, so I encourage you all to vote yes. Let's go ahead. Thank you.
Right, are there any questions for our speaker? Chair Booz.
Yeah, so I actually didn't speak to that. So the idea was that, thank you for bringing that up, by the way. The idea was that we wanted students to be able to miss Senate sometimes for clubs that they had commitments to. For example, if there was a club that convened on the Thursday night at the same time as Senate. However, we didn't want them missing Senate every single week to go to that club rather than Senate. So our initial idea was to list it as a non-recurring obligation outside of Senate, a non-recurring club obligation. However, we decided instead to list it as a non-recurring absence for a club obligation, as in the club can still be recurring, as in periodic, weekly, but we wish that your absence from Senate to attend that organization instead be non-recurring.
Okay, further questions? All right,
Thank you.
seeing none, I'll now be seeking debate in the negative. Further debate in the positive. Chair Booz.
You know, where I think the bill was at the time, where I think it is now, and then why I'm going to end up voting for it. And so, well, let's get started. So obviously, when the bill was first proposed, I wasn't, you know, I liked the idea. I didn't like some parts of the implementation. And so I did propose an amendment on it, which I'm glad to see that DEI has largely adopted, you know, after it was added to the bill in Senate. And so I think that really does solve a lot of my problems with the bill, as far as like giving actual categories that allow a wide range of excused absences, while also excluding some things that are, you know, wouldn't necessarily be legitimate excused absences for me personally. And so I do feel like that was a good change, and the other amendment as well was a good change, and I'm glad that they made them. You know, I do have some qualms about it. I mean, I do feel like non-recurring is relatively vague, but and there are a couple other things. But overall, I do think that this is a good bill, and I'm excited to try it out and see what happens with it. So if you have any questions, please ask.
All right, are there any questions for Chair Booz? All right, seeing none, any debate in the negative? Further debate in the positive? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into a roll call vote.
Al Abdullah. Al Madani. Yes. Beasley. Yes. Belina. Yes, by proxy. Betancourt. Yes. Bond. Yes. Booz. Yes. Bowers. Yes. Boykin. Yes, by proxy. Brenzy. Yes. Burke. Yes. Carlson. Yes. Carr. Yes. Clark. No. Clements. Coggeshall, Colisico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillen King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Preuss, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalen, Watkins, Whitmer, Zimmerman. Okay, bill passes 49 to 1 to 0.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move into Bill 28. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
No changes have been made.
First right to debate.
So just to remind everyone, Bill 28 is just authorizing the Privilege Fee Committee in years future, if they feel the need for like a special session of the Joint Committee on Officers' Compensation to be able to meet that year. They just have to vote by a majority like they would to pull an entity out of cycle to authorize that group to meet. When they do that, we outlined like the timeframes for like a bill of disapproval and things like that. And it's the same timeframe that we have right now, just without the hard dates, seen as those dates could change depending on the year. So I would strongly vote yes, just because it matches what the JCOC committee wanted for the future for like reviewing the treasurer's pay and things like that. So I would strongly urge a yes vote on this bill.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll now be seeking debate in the negative. Further debate in the positive. Any debate at all? All right, we'll now move into a roll call vote on Bill 28.
Al Abdullah, Almadani, Beasley, Belina, Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Boykin, Brentsey, Burke, Carlson, Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colisico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillen King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Preuss, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Bill passes 47 to 0 to 0.
Right, with that, we'll move on to Bill 29. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
No.
First right to debate.
Yeah, so this is just adjusting for the bond surplus that there's no longer a vice president for administration and finance, and we had a discussion with the office on whether that should be moved to the chief operating officer or the chief financial officer, and they agreed with us that it would be best for the CFO, and so it changes that in our documents, and that's all it does.
Are there any questions? Right, any debate in the negative? Debate in the positive? Any debate at all?
Al Abdullah? Almadani? Beasley? Belina? You're good. Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Boykin? Brency? Burke? Carlson? Carr? Clark? Clements? Kagashal? Colosico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gilliland King? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Jabin? Jonak? Kelly? Kerperin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomshek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Oxner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Prus? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Slichter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalin? Watkins? Whitmer? And Zimmerman. Bill passes 47 to 0 to 0.
Right, moving on to Bill 30. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
No.
First right to debate.
So this is the first of what will be a few bills coming out of Senate Operations regarding changes to the elections regulations. That's 54 in the statutes. So we put a lot of work into this one because this is at the end of the Senate. I'm sure a lot of you were kind of overhearing people talk. So I'll just rehash it real quick. A lot of this bill is about creating new definitions or refining definitions that were possibly too vague, because in the past there were times where there were rulings that couldn't very well be made because of vagaries or lack of things, such as social media and group messaging. We created those definitions in the future to make it easier to, because those are such influential things with campaigning these days that we needed to have a definition to better address issues that would come up with that. We also created new, I guess you might call it positions or ways of organizing positions with campaign workers, campaign staff, and the definition of campaign itself was altered as well. We added in under nominations of candidates, a little bit extra to mandatory meetings. They'll people have to register their social media accounts. There's also now the requirement to file a campaign action report as well as campaign like finance reports. Very similar, but this is again just a way of like clarifying work done and labor given to a campaign. Also under Section 4, there's college and university endorsements. A candidate can no longer, it's now enumerated that a candidate can't seek the endorsement or favor of a college or the university, and likewise, a college or university can't give endorsement or favor to a candidate knowingly. Yeah, that's really it.
All right, any questions?
Oh, vote yes, go Cats.
All right, any questions? Any debate? Oh, Chair Booth.
Most of this is only for presidential campaigns.
All right, further questions? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
Sure. So the reason we created, it's actually kind of a joke that we don't like calling it the tier system, but there's like nothing really else to call it. So in the tiers you have, or I guess we like to like imagine rings. You have the center ring, which is the actual candidate or question or whatever is being campaigned for. That's at the center. Then there's the ring directly around that, which is your campaign staff, which you can find the new definition of under Section 1I. And so campaign staff are individuals authorized by candidates to perform and oversee campaign actions. This means things that support a campaign or a candidacy, so on. And then outside of that is another circle, but it's like a dotted line circle, because these are the campaign workers. And the reason it's the dotted line circle is because campaign workers aren't always associated with one campaign. These are volunteers for an event or chalking, or volunteers at a tabling thing. The difference between them is like they're not permanent members of the staff or not permanent supporters of the campaign, and they aren't authorized to oversee campaign actions, only perform them. So what's the benefit of these new definitions? One, clarity as far as when campaign actions are being performed, whether or not they've been dictated by a person who has the authority to do so, and therefore whether or not it's something of consequence for the campaign. There's also and that's just like if something should happen, if a violation should happen. That's also a benefit of the campaign action report that's going to be submitted. Is campaigns will write down or will submit all the campaign actions they do, so like chalking, tabling, things like that. Who was there? What did they do in detail? So you can say, oh, this person wasn't working the campaign wasn't a campaign worker at the time. They weren't instructed or they weren't overseen doing this campaign action, so it's not part of our business. They aren't with us, basically. So clarity on that. And then finally, another benefit of campaign staff is in the past there was issues with like how do you expense labor, I guess you could say. And that's another benefit of the new campaign action report. But under campaign staff, point 3, well, I guess I'll just go 3 points. Campaign staff may be registered. Oh.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator King.
That's
It's been moved and seconded to extend time by 5 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you have 5 minutes.
Cool. So may be registered with with the elections commissioner. You don't have to register your campaign staff, but there's a benefit to doing it, which is said in point 3. Campaign staff may only be registered with one presidential campaign. Yeah. Duh. And then finally, services contributed by campaign staff are not subject to expense limitations if they are registered, but must still be reported to the elections commissioner on the campaign action report per section 540120. What that says is that, let's say the campaign staff provides labor or a service, not money, but a service to the campaign, then that, if they are registered with the commissioner, then that won't be an expense. So let's say website design or like art design, sticker design, things like that. Those are services that won't be expense but must still be reported. Yeah, I think that pretty well says it.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, is there any debate in the negative?
Oh, later.
Further debate in the positive? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into a roll call vote.
Al Abdullah, Al Madani, Beasley, Belina, Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Boykin, Brentsey, Burke, Carlson, Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colosico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillen King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Prus, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin, Watkins, Whitmer, and Zimmerman. Okay, thank you. Bill passes 50 to 0 to 1.
All right, we'll now move into Bill 31. Will the author come forward? Senator Coleman. It's been moved and seconded to have bulk roll calls for Bills 31, 32, and 33. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, Bills 31 through 33 will be bulk roll called. Have any changes been made?
Yes, so on line 9, the T in tomorrow has been capitalized since that is their name, just so that makes more sense.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, first right to debate.
All right, so this is the travel allocation to the agricultural communicators of tomorrow. So they'll be going to their professional development conference in Kansas City, Missouri. So it's a great opportunity for them to go out, meet new people, get involved with industry professionals, and kind of get to see what their future careers are going to look like.
All right, are there any questions for our speaker? All right, seeing none, is there any debate in the negative? Any debate in the positive? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll now move on to Bill 32. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
No.
First right to debate.
All right, so this is the travel allocation to the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. So they'll be going to their national Orlando, Florida. So basically, they'll get to meet with a bunch of industry professionals. They'll get to see new and emerging technologies in chemical engineering, and they'll basically get to learn new information that they'll bring back to basically our chemical engineering assembly. So, yeah.
All right, are there any questions for our speaker? Any debate in the negative? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Bill 33. Have any changes been made?
No.
First right to debate.
All right, so this is the travel allocation to the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. They're going to the FabTech conference in Chicago, Illinois. Basically, they will have the opportunity to look at new technologies, see some latest trends, and they'll also be able to go to a couple manufacturing plants and get some hands-on experience in their respective fields.
Right, are there any questions for our speaker? Any debate in the negative? Debate in the positive? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into bulk roll call on bills 31, 32, 33. Reminder, that's yes to all or no to all, etc.
Al Abdullah, Al Madani, Beasley, Belina, Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Boykin, Brentsey, Burke, Carlson, Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colisico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillen King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomchek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Pruse, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin, Watkins, Whitmer, and Zimmerman. And that, all three of those passed 51 to 0 to 0.
Okay, well, with that, we'll move on to Resolution 39. Will the author please come forward?
And have any changes been made?
We have added authors, but other than that, I do not believe so.
Okay, first right to debate.
Perfect. And so, sorry I couldn't join you guys last week, but I'm going to give a little bit more insight to what the timeline has been on the progression of what is sitting in front of you here today for supporting these additional provisions to privilege fee contracts. So this started a little bit last year. I chaired privilege fee last year, and we kind of tried to start thinking about different ways that we can look at the privilege fee a little bit more holistically, because it was on an upward slope as far as increasing. But we really launched looking at it, and when I say we, I mean Hannah and I, when we went to the Kansas Board of Regents in June, and Kansas Board of Regents members, specifically on the K-State privilege fee, went line by line questioning a bunch of those items, and I had to defend like what the privilege fee committee is, what that shared governance looks like, and why those are set the way they are. So after that, we really wanted to jump into what the feasibility would be and what some of those options are, especially for maybe an instance when Kansas Board of Regents does not approve a fee increase, or in those cases, if we have a significant drop in enrollment and there's a significant spike in that privilege fee. So as we started to look at that feasibility, we talked to a lot of our different advisors, a lot of people from financial services we work with over there, and through administration, trying to see what some of those options would be. And then after we came up with something that kind of seemed right, we had a small group with directors, and all of this took place before school even started for the year here in August, and before we had a privilege fee committee that was trained and ready to go in that sense. And so then after meeting with that small group of directors, it honestly had a lot of different tweaks throughout there, from all the way from July to what we see here in front of us. We had to run it by some legal staff here at K-State, and that's when we opened it up to the larger the larger body of directors of who is funded by the privilege fee. As you all know, like from last week, this is pretty hard to digest. It took hours of discussion. We had to talk to many different offices, and if we would not have started this process before school started and before we had that privilege fee up and running, it definitely would not be up in front here today, and we probably would not have seen it until it was way too late, like February or March. And so those are some of the reasons that we had that progression. But personally, from someone who served on privilege fee from freshman year until last year chairing it, I think this is a great step in the right direction. This will not change any fees for next year. It's not something that takes immediate impact. It's something that's going to be phased in over 3 years, and then we still are working on those options of what would be the short term. Short term in this case is about 3 years. That could help those budgets in alleviating that as we continue decreasing enrollment, which hopefully turns around soon. What I always say, the best case scenario is that no one would even have to read this section of the contract for another 15 or 20 years when we start going into another enrollment cycle of it declining again. And so this is not something that we see being enacted year over year, but something to kind of provide a safeguard for those times if something, let's say like Mizzou would happen where you have a significant decrease in enrollment, there is options so that we can keep a privilege fee that is affordable for students at Kansas State University.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
On the language of the clause.
Yeah, like the language of this that's going to be added to contracts.
Yeah, and so that is something that that when we went to directors, it was a lot more qualitative. It was a lot more, this is what we are trying to do, and this is what we're getting at. We don't know exactly how that would look like in a contract. And so it was after that first meeting with directors in about August where we started trying to piece together what exactly it would look like. I drafted up something in July. It got shot down pretty hard by all the directors. It had maybe a little too of aggressive language in there. So we got to kind of collaborate and create that like seamless piece. And then from there, I know I'm gonna give a lot of credit to Hannah as well. I'm not very prone to like legal wordings and how the semantics work together. She did a lot of that work, and then we got it ran by the legal staff at K-State, and that was all August, September.
Is that a follow-up? Yeah. Okay, granted. Yeah.
I'd also add that the original clause, when it was sent to all the agency directors, when we went into the open forum session, when people came and gave their feedback, we did change one sentence in here. So it was originally just describing the implications of a 3% cut, and then based off of our decisions with the directors, we chose to the language where it states to describe a 1-3 impact.
Do you still have your follow-up? Go for it.
Sorry, just to clarify, like when you said you talked to directors about it like in August, like those are directors of entities, right?
Yes, specifically there, we invited the 3 largest entities to be a part of that conversation, and that was a week and a half, or like right when school was about to start.
Are there any further questions? Director Kulkarni. You're good. Yes.
So how does our privilege fee compare to other Big 12 and region universities in terms of cost?
Yeah, that is a great question. From our discussion in the group meetings, do you remember what they were saying about that, Hannah?
I know KU's is 492, I believe. I know less about that overall number at other Big 12 institutions. I know students have far less of a say at other places as well in terms of, we were right behind KU at the Big 12 conference in terms of total funds managed. I can speak to here at K-State, we are
And then the reason at that Kansas Board of Regents meeting that we were talked a lot about because we had that largest increase in privilege fee. So they pulled that out of the stack, and since we had that decrease in enrollment and a few increases throughout the last year, the way that it was laid out on that spreadsheet, it looked like we had went and made an increase to every single entity because each student was separately paying a little bit more into that entity. So they questioned why we increased every single entity, and we kind of had to walk that back and explain why it looks like that. But that was specifically pulled out because of our large increase, speaking directly to the Kansas Board of Regents.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator King. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you have 5 more minutes for questions. Are there any further questions for the speaker? Dr. Kulkarni? Yeah.
I actually have a couple questions. If there are no other ones.
Yeah, as long as you ask for follow-ups, you're good.
All right. Thank you. So in the third whereas statement, it says there's $66.80 increase is 16.5% an increase in regards to privilege fee cost. How does that $66.80 relate to the overall that a student might pay here at K-State in terms of increase?
Are you saying like in comparison to tuition or?
So in an entire like student financial statement, an additional $66.80 would equal 1% of an increase.
Yeah, that is honestly going to look different with how many credit hours you take, what college you take it from, whether that's engineering, who has very high fees, whether it's College of Education, who has 0. But as far as what that looks overall with like tuition and fees, it's definitely not going to look at that 16.5%. And that $66 increase was taken over the course of 4 years, I believe.
Yes, granted.
In line 55, it talks about deciding between deliberately overestimating enrollment decline and charging students substantially more. Do you have an estimate as to what that substantially more might be?
And so what happens at the end of every privilege fee cycle when you're looking at like February and March after we get the 20-day enrollment numbers for that second semester is the privilege fee chair sits down with a representative from the finance office. It's not always the chief financial officer, but one of their staff, and goes over what we're going to project in enrollment and if we can successfully be conservative in that number. And so to give you an example, so we sat down back in February and March, and we were trying to project enrollment of what like these 20-day numbers were going to look like for this year. And so the projections were looking like it could decrease by 5-6%, but if you allocated that much of a decrease in the budget, by upcharging more students, then we were going to have a much higher overall increase in the privilege fee based on that. So we had to say it could be 5 or 6, but we're going to estimate it at 3 or 4, and then just hope that it's closer to 3 or 4. And if it's not, we're going to have to dip into our privilege fee reserve budgets or be creative in where that money comes from. And so when we talk about substantially more, it could be an additional like 1 to 3 or 4% increase to that semester privilege fee based on how they want to play the numbers.
Yes, granted.
That is my last question. So on line 59, the whereas statement, student costs and affordability is a continuing priority for KSU SGA. Is there a reason that like student success and general well-being wouldn't be considered a priority?
Can you repeat the last part?
Well, so yeah, your last whereas statement is student costs and affordability is a continuing priority for KSU SGA. Considering the entities in which the privilege fee supports, like counseling services and the rec health services, is there a reason that like student success and general well-being would be considered a priority?
Yeah, personally, I think that is a very strong priority. Something that it's not listed here in the bill. It's more personal. Cost and affordability, depending on who you are here at K-State, if you're undergrad, grad, it affects every single student here on campus. That is personally why I think it's a major priority. But you're right, student success is is that priority as well. If you are kind of looking at that question in a way asking, okay, so why are we going to allow us to maybe be able to cut some more funds from these entities who might help with that student success? My response to that would be that some of these marginal cuts I do not believe are pretty non-elastic in the way that it could affect enrollment or the student experience here at K-State. For example, if an entity such as the rec took a 2% decrease, that might mean they might have to cut a little bit fewer hours, offer a little bit more services at the rec. But would that really make a huge impact to driving students to K-State? Probably not. Would that make a huge impact on student success and student well-being? A small marginal difference like that probably would, in my opinion.
Time for questions has expired. I'll look for another motion. Senator King. Okay, are there any objections? Seeing none, you have 5 more minutes for questions. Senator Carlson.
Yep, so every single entity would be notified on needing that statement impact. And so they would all have to provide that. And then based on that, those would be vetted, and then not all of them would be passed on to the Privilege Fee Committee. The reason for that is if these were if this was sent out and requested in February or March, there is just not enough time for the Privilege Fee Committee to give due diligence to upwards of 16 different entities coming in and kind of pleading their case based on their money utilization too. But they would have to submit that impact statement and what that would look like, which is a lot less time consuming for them as well and their staff, rather than having to create an entire presentation and spend time out of their evening talking to Privilege Fee.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? Chair Orzechowski.
Yeah, and so it is 10 days because really it kind of has to be a very quick turnaround. And a lot of that reason comes from if there was a disapproval from the Kansas Board of Regents for our increase in fees, we turned those funds back around in July, and the Kansas Board of Regents meets the second or third week of June. So that is especially where that process would have to be expedited as quickly as possible, so that we could readjust our budget and be ready to go for that new fiscal year starting in July. And that's why it's a short time frame.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll now be seeking debate in the negative on this resolution. So is there anyone looking to debate in the negative? Seeing none, we'll move into debate in the positive. Any debate in the positive? Any debate at all? Okay. Seeing none, we'll just be moving into a voice vote since this is a resolution. All of those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, seeing none, the resolution passes.
All right. With that, sorry, there should not be any introduction of minor allocations listed. That's my mistake. But an introduction of legislation, is there a motion to consider Bill 34? Intern Phillips. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 34. Will the author please come forward?
All right, this is Bill 1920-34, Amendments to the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution concerning the Office of Student Activities and Services, by Andrew Boos. Whereas the Office of Student Activities and Services became the Center for Student Involvement in 2017, Whereas one reference to OSAS still exists in the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution, whereas this reference has the potential to cause confusion for readers of the KSU SGA governing documents, and whereas making the Constitution and bylaws publicly available online will make the KSU SGA governing documents much more accessible to the student body than keeping them on file in CSI. Be it resolved that Article 10 or Article 9 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution shall be amended to read as follows. 901. I will just read what is struck out and what is added. So on line 29, and the sentence that is added starts with an official copy of the KSU SGA Constitution and bylaws shall be made publicly available online. So publicly available online is added. Then kept on file in the Kansas State University Office of Student Activities and Services is struck. And then the rest of the sentence continues as normal. And then section 2, the amendment shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate, signature of the student body president, and ratification by the College Council.
All right, are there any questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into second open period. Olivia is not here. Other second open period speakers? All right, Julia, take it away. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, sorry, I have a really bad cough, so I went and hacked it up out there. These are funny. I screened them, so I'm really excited to read them aloud. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really funny. I hope this is the one I saw at first. Okay, so to Ashton Tesh, Queen of Judicial. She's not here, but she is.
Okay, so
Shout
raise
out.
your hand after you're called on so we can do it fast.
She is here. Okay. Sweet, go give her candy, Julia. Or throw it. We can be rowdy. We can be as rowdy or as professional as we want. To Garrig for successfully completing the intern program and displaying great interest in representing his peers. Shout out to Garrig, yeah. Are you confident enough in your throw? Okay. Tell for being a top-notch senator and person to look the most like John Cena. Cameron Koger for not just being a consistent and outstanding member of Senate, but an outstanding member of the student body. Jeff, you're a BA mentee, so way to go, Jeff. Sadie Polson, you deserve more compensation. SJ's next top model, Nick Beasley. SJ's next top casual model, Camila Rivera. Nathan King, king of making PowerPoints pretty. Shout out to Natalia for being in the final 3 for ambassador. To Carissa Jonak for giving a good conversation, buddy during Senate. So to Carissa. Okay. Justin Watkins, big chillin'. That's all it says. Shout out to Lily Colburn for being an amazing coordinator. Shout out to all the interns who got sworn in tonight. You are all so enthusiastic, and I can't wait to see how you all make SGA a better place. Smiley face.
Love you all. There's not enough candy.
Yeah, sorry. Some of you guys also ate it when we broke into small groups, so you did this to yourself, because I definitely had enough before, but I saw you guys steal it. Natalia Rodriguez, she's done fantastic work in DEI. Major props to her for taking ownership on legislation and leading committee work. To Julia Howie and Lily Colburn for getting the first round of interns sworn in. To Justin Watkins for being super cool and tough with the stitches in his eyebrow. To Bryn Carlson for recovering from a 2-set deficit against KU last night and for having 15 kills in our volleyball game. And then second shout out to Bryn Carlson, BKU, woohoo. And then to Sam Bond, Natalia Rodriguez, and Max Harmon for making it into the top 6 for Student Ambassador. May the odds be ever in your favor. To Matt Orzakowski for his endless work on DEI, and to Annie Lomschick for asking multiple great questions on her second Senate meeting. got for this week. Stay tuned for next week.
Okay, with that, we're going to move into reference of legislation. Oh, sorry. Any other open period speakers? All right, seeing none, reference of legislation, Bill 34 will be referred to Senate Ops, and we'll move into the second roll call.
Al Abdullah, Al Madani, Beasley, Betancourt, Bond, Booz, Bowers, Boykin, Brentsey, Burke, Carlson, Carr.
No side conversations, no packing up until we're all done. You all know it goes faster. Thank you.
Carr, Clark, Clements, Coggeshall, Colasico, Cruz, Dowd, Frederick, Gallardo, Gillen King, Gillespie, Glasscock, Hamlin, Hines, Huffman, Jabin, Jonak, Kelly, Kerperin, Kidd, King, Koger, Kurzweil, Coleman, Lomshek, Lux, Matos, Meinhardt, Oxner, Orzakowski, Pelton, Payton, Phillips, Prus, Rivera, Rodriguez, Reichert, Slichter, Smith, Snyder Ben, Snyder Blaine, Spellman, Wallace, Ward Kelly, Ward Shalin, Watkins, Whitmer, and Zimmerman. We have 45 senators present.
All right, with that one, now move into adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Koger. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn until next week, same time, same place. Any objections? Meeting's adjourned.
sometimes I find myself asking the same question.
It was on there originally. Oh yeah, because you were in office. Yeah. Turn those mics off. Flip them over, there's a power button.